All right, let's try this again. I've got family in Florida, and I've talked about how there's no way I would ever want to receive any land. You couldn't give me any land down there because I know that a lot of that towards the coast will become uninhabitable in the next 20, 50 years. People think it's funny. Oh, no, you're crazy, all this stuff. I have a friend of mine, a little different situation here. His girlfriend's, his extended family lives near New Orleans. And, they're like, they can't afford a hotel room, all this kind of stuff. And he was saying that if you can't afford it, you should leave. And that's what I've said about Florida, that these areas will consistently start hitting more and more storms. We know this. These are facts. These are just the new reality we live in. And I think that's a certain element of black conservatism. It isn't I believe in this, that it's a certain, no, we'll just live in a house that our great-grandparents lived in, and we'll just, things are going to just stay the same way they are, and I don't believe it. That's a certain element of it. That's what you see now. And I was just saying how my friend's situation could become my situation, that the same people that I've told about the land would want to come stay with me or stay near me, even though I've said Florida is getting worse. Louisiana, going back to that, they get a bad storm every couple of years. I'm talking about the Gulf Coast, Houston, all that. You had Harvey, you had Irma. Been a couple other storms that have been, remember Katrina back in 2004. But that's the new normal now. And if you can't afford to do certain things, see, that's what really was the bad thing about Katrina, is that you have all the people that live down there, they can't afford to go anywhere else. They couldn't afford to move, they're just going to live down there and just act as though none of this is real. That's the sad thing about climate change, is the manifest ignorance of the people that are affected the most, that they just don't know and they just don't care. This mockery of science hurts them the worst, because these things are real. And remember I talked about Ellen DeGeneres, her being gay, and how if things hadn't worked out, she could just went overseas and been gay and come back and done shows and left. That's privilege. Same thing with black people in these areas that are most directly affected by climate change. They can't get away from it. They can't get on their helicopter. There's no helicopter. They can't get on it. They can't do that. They can't afford it. And that's sad. It's very sad to realize that. Looking at this storm that hit Ida, that's what it's called, Ida. They hit the other night. It is really another frayed. It made me think about all the fabric that's fraying in the American empire. And by that I mean you have COVID. You have vaccine skepticism with COVID. You have the mutations. You have the Delta strain, which is pretty bad. You have the Lambda strain that's kind of vaccine somewhat resistant. There may need to be maybe a third one, maybe another one that comes out that the vaccine's no good on. You've got all that. You've got these storms, stronger storms. You got the wildfires. You've got, like I said, every couple of years you have these major storms that do a lot of destruction. Understand something. We're not talking about every decade. Like California may have a major earthquake in our lifetime. Maybe, maybe not. That's discussion. That's debate. There will be more major storms in the Gulf Coast region. That's a fact. That's not debatable. And if you're living down there, you should be aware of that. I'm not saying it to say we shouldn't feel for the people affected and the people that have died, but this is real. We're in climate change. It's not coming. So you've got that, like I said, climate change, there's the wildfires, with these storms, and how climate change, the warmer waters on the coast, the weather makes the storms more intense. It makes the wildfires burn better. It helps them to jump interstates and stuff like that. You've got domestic terrorism. All these things together are what show you the American empire is in decline. It isn't just one thing. It isn't just Trump. It's all those things together, and it's a certain willful ignorance of the reality of working peoples, a certain ignorance of the realities of people that are in the bullseye of these storms, of these deleterious events, some events that really have broken records we haven't seen before. Storms like this. I just think that and that's why I say before that if I was to look at Trump probably in a decade, if someone asked me about Trump 10, 20 years from now, I would say Trump was wasted time, because I'm not going to push the narrative that Trump just made the house. The house was made for him. He just stepped in the house and turned the lights on. Trump set the fire, but the trash was already there, and the trash was already gathered by people like Sarah Palin and others. That didn't just come out of Trump's business. I think that Trump was just a bad actor that was the first one to just say, I'm going to act in bad faith. And that's why I say, looking back, Trump's era, if you want to call it that, the Trump era was merely an era of wasted time and broken promises. You know, and you still have this, Trump won, and it's to me, that's very sad. That's another element of it, that you just have this segment of the population that just doesn't believe in anything, doesn't believe in climate change, believes the wildfires are California's fault, even though most of the land in California is federal land. It doesn't believe COVID's that bad, even though we've had all these different people that have actually orchestrated events have died of COVID. You had, Herman Cain died of COVID. Not celebrating it, it's sad to me. But we should acknowledge and be aware of the fact that that's another frayed strand of the American empire's decline. Thank you for listening.